Okay. Hey, Peter just joined us. He's Peter.
Hey,
I can't hear you yet, Peter. Are you?
You hear me now?
There you are.
yes.
Phew. I I am not an expert at getting some of these cameras set up. I after the pandemic hit, I tried to get. I have a standing desk, and I had the laptop slower down, and I'm tall, and I was like, I need a camera to sit on top, and then they were all sold out at stores, and I
They
had to wait
sold out
forever.
fast.
Oh my gosh. And so I had to find one that worked and that fit in this weird space where I work. And then I was like, well, I need a microphone now. But it's slowly worked out. But hopefully I sound okay. Or, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, you
sounds good.
sound good, man.
Yeah.
Sounds
good.
great.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us, man. I'm super excited to have this call, honestly, because I've been following your stuff for a long time now.
Long
Um,
time. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Since your famous blog post, I know that's where I found you.
the onion,
Funny. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
onion man.
I don't know when I'm actually considering trying to write a part two to that because so many like weird things have even happened since then. But I was like, I don't know if it's worth double dipping on that article. Like, my partner ended up buying the farm. So he was the general manager when I partnered with him. And he's since bought the farm. We changed the name of the farm, just different initials from M&T to A&M. We relaunched the website and, small things like that where it's funny. A lot of our customers are, they almost consider our farm their farm. So they love hearing what's going on. Like, when is the crop going in? How is the crop? We saw some, they'll call me and say, we noticed a big thunderstorm was coming through. Is the crop okay? Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating industry to be associated with. I've tried to distill over the years why I like this project so much, or even other projects. Ranch work falls into this bucket as well. But being helpful is one, just being immensely helpful to people where is some really niche pain point. And I just happen to attack it from the domain name side versus a coding or coming up with an idea first. The domain typically comes first, and then working backwards or trying to shoehorn in a business to see if I can solve some sort of problem. And I never anticipated having that type of reception for Vidalias. I know they are popular, but for foodies and chefs out there, they're a lot of people call them the caviar of sweet onions. People just go crazy over them. So I love being that servant to them. And it's seasonal, so it's easier for me to manage because any
Mm.
bottlenecks that come up in the season, once we slow down in August, I can downshift into just fixing things and prepping for next season and seeing and then really testing other types of software to see if we can make it a little bit easier or better communication to our customers or very simple stuff. Nothing terribly nothing terribly fancy. It's not like Chris, building all these Rails apps. It's sitting on WordPress. I'm trying to learn more about PHP so I can go on the back end and start monkeying around in the back end a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. Because I didn't come in from a coding side, but I find it fascinating and I love being able to go in and monkey around after some of the base steps are accomplished on the website side. But then I downshift into logo or custom phone number because I do all customer support for the site. So I'm trying to carve out time. During season, I have to carve out time just to talk to our customers because they like to talk. I mentioned this, I think, in that article where I just, I'm going off on a tangent, guys. I know you
That's
guys
all
want me
good.
to get on.
Yeah, this is great.
No, but it's just fun. It's just fascinating, these little weird projects that you can get into, either from the coding side, you're starting with an idea and then launching something and building it yourself and just babying it to death if you want to baby it. Um, and
Yeah,
then,
it's kind of interesting because like I know like John and I have talked for a long time about we want to build something, but like finding a problem is really hard. But it's
yeah,
really interesting to go domain first because you're just like, oh, that's a good domain, and I can probably go super deep in whatever, and it kind of is like a prompt for like what is the best business I could do if I
yeah,
have this domain,
yeah.
and you're like it feels more natural that way than trying to be like, oh, people are frustrated with what I don't know, and it's really hard to come up with a good idea to go build in the other direction. So it's pretty awesome.
Well,
Like it's a unique angle to attack things.
No, thank you. Yeah, what I kept finding was, because I tried the idea side at first, and just that horizon is so large, and it's almost intimidating because we are in a fortunate spot because we can build anything, or we have the opportunity to try anything, but that can be a curse as much as a blessing. And at some points I felt, because at first I tried to build a restaurant. I was going to collect restaurant health inspection scores and create this massive database, and then allow people to search restaurant health inspection scores. So if you're going out to a restaurant, well, it's neat that they got a 5-star review, but what did they get? Did they fail their most recent the inspection score? That'd be kind of fun data to look at. And I tried to build that just from the idea, and just got nowhere. You're working with government institutions. I was trying to build it solo. I like building stuff solo and going quick. Most of the records were on paper, so I had to go, and I was attempting to go and scan all these papers, and they update them fairly regularly. And they had no interest in digitizing some of the data. So it would require me going in and scanning all that. And so after I did like a year and a half of that, I was like, I'm getting nowhere. And I even, at the same time as I was collecting the data, I was trying to pitch it to third parties. they were like, meh, who cares? Like, we aren't even interested in this. And so I didn't feel like it was being helpful or solving any type of problem. So I ditched it. As much as I enjoyed the idea, I thought it would be fascinating data to look at as a complement to a Google review. Here's the Google review. Here's the restaurant health inspection score. It'd be cool, but it got nowhere. But I tell you, every single time I was really doing it in tandem. I was building projects on ideas, and then I'd build one on a domain name. Virtually every time I'd launch one on a domain, it would take off, it would get traffic, it would drive some sort of conversion. So around the same time, I bought the domain AppalachianTrail.com for the hiking trail up on the East Coast. Bought it from an end user, it didn't even expire. And I built just a simple, like 20-page site. Here's a map for it. Here's some reviews or some tips and tricks. I hired a few folks who had hiked it just for suggestions. I had plans just to go hike it myself, so I could have personal experience doing it. And it one just took off, started ranking immediately in Google, started getting organic traffic, started driving conversions. I had a little bit of AdSense on there, so it was making $5 to $10 a day. And then it went up to $20-$30 a day.
Oh my God.
And then I got an offer for it. So I bought it for $3 and then sold it for $30. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is, and so I used that money essentially to buy duderanch.com. When it expired, went up, and it had more opportunity because it's such a big ticket price for a Dude Ranch vacation. It's about roughly on the low end, about $10,000 for a Dude Ranch vacation. And it went for that one, I just shoehorned in a directory marketplace. Just will be the old school yellow pages for a Dude Ranch vacation. What are you looking for? Do you need a pool or no pool? Do you want to bring kids? Do you need to be near a big airport or a long way away? Do you want it really remote where there's no cell signal? Do you want to herd cattle? So providing a little bit of that. And then, it's a business expense. I get to go out and visit dude ranches. So I ran that for over 10 years. I visited, over 50 dude ranches out west, primarily out west. And that's where ranch work came from. I was running Dude Ranch and ended up partnering. I ended up becoming friends with a friendly competitor. He ran guestranches.com under the identical model, directory marketplace. So he and I kept meeting at conferences, at a Dude Ranch conference. And we were like, hey, dude, why? What we kept noticing was I'd sign up a Dude Ranch and then they'd cancel David, was my partner. They'd cancel David. But then on the flip side, somebody would cancel me, but they'd keep David. And then David and I were like, hey, why don't we just partner up and have one advertising fee? It'd be really difficult for them to cancel both of us. If they cancel both of us, they're going to lose 30 to 50% of their bookings because we drove that much traffic.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, let's figure out a rev split and we'll figure it out. And so we did it. He lives in Denver. So we figured it out, and we just figured out a way to partner up. So we partnered up for, like 7 years. And then so he eventually, I needed some extra cash to do birthday parties, and so I let him just acquire Dude Ranch from me, an ownership stake in Dude Ranch. He didn't want me to go away. So, and then a few years earlier, I had bought ranch work from him. It was under his wing. And you can see if you go to the about page on ranchwork.com, I have a few screenshots of when he launched it, and he taught himself to code. And it's like a classic 1998 website with I don't know where he got his logo. He made the logo online somewhere, probably in some browser-based logo generator. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
So he built the site himself. Talk about a self-trained coder. I think he started when he was about 50. And I partnered with him, I think when he was 60 or 65, maybe around 60. And we just hit it off. He was originally from Georgia, so he has even more of a Southern accent than I do. And he loves dude ranches. And so it helped me speed up the sales process because I hadn't signed up all the dude ranches at that point. But then he had RanchWork. So I was just looking through his portfolio of domain names, and I noticed RanchWork. I was like, what is this RanchWork? What are you doing with it? At the time, he tried to build it as a job board. He got a little bit of exposure. He helped drive some leads. But honestly, he got tired of maintaining it and managing it. And so eventually he just started pointing the domain name to a Facebook page. And so I noticed it. And I was like, what is RanchWork? And I have a friend here in Atlanta who built some job boards in the nursing industry and had a good exit on a nursing job board. And so I was like, okay, what? I know I like that model because there's nothing to package up and ship out. I mean, I have onions. I got my one physical product, and that's enough for me. I have one that is perishable and seasonal. And of all the things I had to pick, it was a seasonal, perishable vegetable that I had to pick. It couldn't be watches or specialized pens or something that would have a long shelf life. But it chose me, and I love working in that industry. So, but all of my other businesses, I like them to be information based. I simply show or share information or drive leads or be as close to the transaction as physically possible. And this transaction is the job. And so I love the model, just information. My background's page search, SEO, primarily analytics. So it's like, okay, I know this. I see search volume for ranch jobs, ranch work, and then specifically ranch manager jobs. Or ranch jobs in Colorado, very geographic based. So I was like, I know the architecture. I know how to build this type of site. And then I was like, who's my competition? It was Indeed, Simply Hired. And the organic search results are just boring. What it was telling me was Google's dying for an alternative here. And it's funny, if you look into so many different niches, Google is dying. And all these different job board niches, it's dying for alternatives. Every single result is Indeed, Simply Hired, Monster, XYZ. And if you notice on RanchWork, good man, I typically cross my fingers that it stays this way. I kick them around the block for ranch jobs. Hopefully, let me do this while I'm talking to you guys. Let me make sure I can mind. Let's do Google ranch jobs in Colorado. Let's just do that. Or do ranch manager jobs. I was ranking pretty well for it. Yeah, so Colorado ranch jobs is, well, at least for me, is number one. Then Indeed's behind me.
Same for me, yeah.
Once that started working, either way. So David and I, yeah, you guys tell me if I'm going all over the place here.
It's all good, man. This is great.
No, I love this.
So in the early days, so David had the domain, and I didn't know how the site was going to be received or if I would be successful or if it would have any type of impact. And so in the early days, I just let him keep the domains. We trust each other. So I just asked him, hey, let me see what I can do on this site. Point the name servers to me. I'll throw it on a host. I'll rebuild it for you for free. I'll do all the legwork. And if I happen to receive any job listings, I'll give you 25%. I think that was the original split. I'll give you 25% and I keep 75. And he was like, sure. No contract. It was just point the name servers to me and I'll figure out something and figure out if I can get this thing to work. And then the other thing was I get to keep, if it gets some traffic, I get to keep all AdSense or publishing revenue if I chose another provider. So I have a screenshot of the first version on the about page too on Ranch Work. So I rebuilt it on a $60 job board theme on WordPress. And then I had to heavily rebuild the back end from an SEO perspective. Just some of the basics, title tags, making sure they match the content on the page, that I had state pages, tags, WordPress breaks it out by tags or categories. So just sticking to that structure. And then consistently posting, trying my best. It helped that I came from the dude ranch industry, so I could reach out to them to start, where I already had a relationship with them, and just said, hey, do you need to hire anybody for the summer? Visit Ranch Work. I was at the conferences, so I'd give away job listings. They had an auction where they raised money for scholarships for kids who are considering ranching as an employment avenue. And so I'd give away job listings there just to brand and expose that we have relaunched this. It's getting traffic. Let us help you fill jobs. There's no reason. Indeed charges a lot of money for a job listing. I believe the last I checked, they were charging a cost per click similar to AdWords. And it's very expensive to post a job. And so mine was just a flat fee. Number one, I had a free listing option just to help anybody in financial constraints. So I like that option. Just give it away for free first. I don't have any boss to report to, no board or anything. It's just me. So I was like, I always want a free option. So I launched a free option. But in the early days, I was like, I need some sort of, I need to encourage folks if they have the ability to pay for listings. So what sort of method can I use to encourage them to pay? So I use time as an encouragement for them to pay. So for free listings, originally, I think it was 7 or 14 days. I said, you have to wait 7 or 14 days for a free listing to go live. If you pay, it'll go live in under 24 hours. This is all manual by me. I curate all the jobs. And just to ensure they're highly, highly specific. We always have some folks coming in trying to, sneak in. I had one recently that tried to post. He needed a framer over in Jackson Hole. And I was like, dude, it doesn't really match it. And number two, I'm not going to drive you any good leads because anyone coming to us is looking to work on a ranch. They want to really be outside. And so I have to turn down listings. I have to refund money. But oddly, that rarely, maybe once a year, I'll have people who try to squeeze in job listings that don't fall under my definition of a ranch job. So it's rare that I have to do it.
That's interesting.
So you'd think they'd take advantage of it and just try to spam me to death. They don't, which has been refreshing. So I use that time constraint. And then when it started to really back up, I had to extend it out to 2 to 3. Right now, it's either 3 to 4 weeks. And then slowly playing around with pricing. I'm still playing around with pricing to figure out. I still think I'm probably cheap. And I'll probably I have a silver, gold, and platinum package. And I'll probably raise those maybe the next month or two, which is scary because I know I'm in a very different pricing category than a software developer job. Ranch hand jobs or ranch manager jobs. So for a hand, typical salary is $25,000 a year, maybe. So I have to think from the rancher's perspective. How much are they willing to pay to get a hand on their ranch who may last a year or two, possibly? So I'm not sure if it's 100. It might be the sweet spots around close to where I am right now. My base is 39 for a 21-day listing, and then it bumps up. Gosh, I don't even have to look again. I think it's 39, 49, and then 99. And then it allows the 49 runs, I think, for 60 days, and then the 99 for 300 just for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm playing around with all those models. I'm not sure if I drive so many. The site is quite effective. I'm fortunate the site's quite effective. And I can fill jobs within 7 or 14 days. So I'm not sure if the time option, I'm just thinking out loud, just sharing you guys behind the scenes on the site. I'm not sure if time is the best way for me to run this site, whether it's just it'll run till it's filled. but then I'd need a function for the rancher to indicate to me that the job is filled, and ranchers are non-tech. They don't, they made it clear at the outset, they did not want to log in. They didn't want to manage another password. And honestly, I didn't want to do all the admin on that side either. I wanted
it's support work.
I don't want to do so. I want to do zero friction, very similar to Peter Levels doing job listings. Go fill out a form, input your credit card, and submit the job. All my competitors require folks to set up accounts. So I wanted zero friction, just fill out the form, submit money, and then I curate it, and then it goes live in under 24 hours. So I haven't figured out a way. So right now it's just time-based. If it runs the 21 days, it just automatically turns off and says filled expired. Or most oftentimes within 7 or 10 days, they'll email me and say, please, can you please pull it down? We have plenty of resumes to go through. We don't need any more, or can you pause it? I don't have a pausing function yet, but typically I'll just mark it as filled, and if they need me to reopen it, I just reopen it.
Yeah.
Just by email.
Yeah, because if you're that effective at being able to drive applicants, then the duration of the ad isn't the selling point anymore. You know, and maybe if they always are looking for new people, but you know, if it's a specific role and they're like getting enough applicants in 7 days, then you know, they probably have a more emphasis or something as a better selling point to, like, you know, draw attention to their ad. Maybe I've seen that done in a few places, you know, like we'll include your logo and that sort of thing. But it's interesting to know that, and then you can tailor your pricing to that, whatever it is.
You're right. I've considered the sticky aspect. If they want to have their job, you know, sticky at the top of the page. My email list is growing, so different ways to promote the job or job wanted within my email list. Other ways, but I'll tell you, this project is a good example of just it doesn't have to be terribly fancy. It doesn't have to have so many different bells and whistles. And it's very similar to Vidalia. I sell 4 different boxes. That's it. I don't sell salsa, relish, salad dressings, a microwave cooker. It's onions. You got a 5-pound, 10-pound, 25, and 40-pound. And then our little small caveat is like, and you can choose the size of the onion. That's where we get fancy. If you want a medium-sized onion, you can get that, or get a larger jumbo size, or a colossal, which is the biggest one. And that's it. So with ranch work, it's, do you want free, silver, gold, or platinum? And it'll run your time. If you fill it before, ping me via email and I'll mark the job as listed. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I feel like there's the temptation to go and offer all of those things, but then you might not realize the complexity that you get yourself into. Like instantaneously, once you do that, you are in a whole different business. And it's not like, you know, you can't make it as profitable because you're going to need all these other things, more warehousing, more, you know, everything.
Yeah.
But if you really go deep into one specific thing, like you can make that way more profitable, I think, and just keep running it by yourself or with a couple people. And it's a really interesting point, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's, and honestly, for me, I don't have the development skills to make it fancy. I have kind of my CTO, so to speak, if I need some really fancy back-end WordPress stuff added to the site. In my first version, I didn't even have e-commerce built into the site. I pushed people to a third-party site based out of Greenville, South Carolina, a company called Moonclerk. So they had a form submission. They had a form submission, and then I plugged that into my Stripe account. So I would push them over to a Moonclerk URL. They would fill out the job. Moonclerk would email me, and then I would manually add the jobs in. That was for the first couple of years. Then when I made enough money, I reinvested to just relaunch the site so it was faster on a better host, and then integrate all of the e-commerce within the site, make it SSL secure, directly plug into my Stripe account. And then We have Gravity Forms. So it simply just makes a new job listing. Somebody submits all the information, and then it plugs in all those fields into a job listing. And then I go and verify everything and approve, make changes sometimes if it needs to be formatted correctly, and curate everything essentially.
Yeah,
And then
Peter,
put it in. So that helped me out tremendously from a time aspect.
Peter, your story is just so super fascinating because I feel like most people, myself included, even Chris and I, when we're talking about ideas, we come at it from the idea first, and then we look at the demand side. And you started with the demand side, and then you move into the product, and it's neat to see like the difference there. So a lot of the advice you'll see online is like, build your audience first, or whatever, or build your product first, or this or that. And there's like this debate over that. Or worry about these other things that are maybe unimportant later, like wait. What I think is really fascinating about your story is you have the opportunity to do those things. Like, so starting with demand, you can say, look, there's enough demand here. I'm getting enough search volume, enough people looking for this thing that if I just fill that pipeline, it doesn't really matter how I do it. I can use Moonclerk, I can use whatever. I can fix these other things later. What I can't fix maybe as easily as demand. And so I think that's like, man, that's a lesson that I feel like I haven't fully embraced and really like know in my heart yet, because I haven't experienced what you have yet, which is you buy something like a domain that actually has potential, and then you meet the needs of that, or you start with the market first and you really just have a good market first.
Right, right.
So I'm curious, like how you think about. I know you have a background in SEO and SEM and this and that, but like when you're evaluating domains, are you thinking about the idea first? Are you just looking for interesting domains? Like I know you've talked a little bit about that, but like what are you thinking about when you're searching for domains and stuff?
I've typically when I'm going through lists, and this is just a bad addiction that you get into, or just people who fall into this this domaining trap. Um, uh, you can just get addicted to it, and it's my morning newspaper. I go through the list. There are 500 over 500,000 500,000 to a million every single day that are expiring. And there is every way to Sunday to sift them and sort them and look at names or .coms or alternate TLDs. But I stick to .com. But so what? And so it's weird. Let me preface some of this. So I didn't go in this with an idea. I just started doing stuff, and then I took a tiny little baby step in one direction. I didn't go in and say, I'm going to start looking at domains. I'm going to start trying to build in business models. I just started doing things. I tell you, it's such a weird path. I have to think about, I have to rethink some of my steps, because even right now, I continue to take odd steps in different directions to figure out, well, maybe can I do this with some of these domains, or would this path work?
But you're trying to essentially find the business that's going to fit the domain, right? So
Correct.
I mean, you stumbled into that by doing it with the onions and some other things, but like you're starting with the domain at least and saying, what can I make that would be profitable here, whether it's info or physical?
Right. So what I sort of do in my head, what I ended up turning myself into was like a mini VC. So I look at the domain names, and I'm almost envisioning these domain names pitching their services to me.
Oh,
And I turn down 99.99% of them.
okay.
But they're looking at, so each one is pitching a service. It's I see, gosh, what are some of them? I mentioned a few. Trying to think of some that I shared recently. Like there was one, tinycabin.com, that I mentioned on some newsletter that I send out. I was like, Tiny Cabin, that'd be a cool. What's stopping me from producing and shipping and selling tiny cabins? That's a big industry right now, because people are trying to get out of the cities and go live in a tiny cabin. It's affordable, it's very easy to build, very easy to ship. If you just want it constructed somewhere else and shipped somewhere, I was like, that I can see that as a business. And so in some ways, maybe it's a certain aspect of my brain that is, or at least the domain is pitching their services to me. So I have to turn down a lot. And then a domain looks interesting. So if one looks interesting, and then I'll start doing, I guess, the backwards math. I'll like, okay, what does Google Trends? Is anybody searching for this type of term? Tiny cabins, sales, construction, tiny cabin. I look at search because I want You know, some people call it directional versus inspirational marketing. I want directional marketing. I want people looking for like actively looking for a product or service. I don't want to inspire anybody, because that's hard to convert, and it's hard to consistently close sales when you're trying to inspire. A billboard on the highway is trying to inspire you to buy a Cadillac, versus directional is, I just blew my tire on my car. I need a new tire right now. I really don't need to be marketed to. I just need to choose who I'm going to buy the new tire from. So in the old days, it was Yellow Pages. And these days it's search engines. So I need to find a tire. And so I like trying to shoehorn domain businesses into that model, where I'm either making the transaction myself for Vidalia, or I'm as close to the physical transaction, which is directory marketplaces or these job boards. I am driving a lot of leads, and they get to select a lead out of the applicants that I send. Or duderanch.com, I'm driving leads to them that they either convert. So if I drive 100, they're probably going to close 20 to 30% of those. And if that advertiser decides to cancel my services, it will hit their bottom line directly. Mm-hmm. And so it makes them think again if they if they try to cancel our services. But it's a lot of responsibility on me to drive really qualified leads their way. And so that's what I'm doing. When I'm looking through these domains, I'm trying to fit in, and it typically does fall into a few different categories in regards to what I try to build. And this wasn't intentional, just this happened to boil up over the years. And I'll even show you a company that actually acquires, if I can remember their name. So one is boutique e-commerce, which wound up being Vidalia for me. Job boards, which I adore. I wish I had more manpower to build more. Let's see. Directory marketplace, which I love. Very challenging to build, but lots of fun. I'm trying to repeat what I did on Dude Ranch on birthday parties. It's identical model. If you have a kid and you want to find a birthday party place, enter their age. I'm in the Southeast right now. I'm trying to constrict that market first and then expand. So I'm trying to do that for the birthday party industry. It's been an interesting process so far. Yelp in many ways has poisoned the water in that world. So I've had a lot of interesting conversations so far because a lot of the providers have had really negative experiences with Yelp, because Yelp will try to take over the organic or paid search world and hijack the lead. And so they are very standoffish on this type of model. So I'm in the middle of trying to figure out how I alter and change this industry, or that project to serve them the best way I can, or shift it to or pivot to something entirely different. Shipping birthday in a box possibly is something that I might consider if the directory marketplace doesn't work. So directory marketplace is a third. I've never built a forum, but they are quite effective, all information-based and serving a specific community. This one isn't domain name based, but my brother, of all people, he restores old Porsches. So he'll buy old 19s, typically 911Ss from 68 to 71, typically, buy them and restore them as if they're coming off the showroom floor. And his number one hangout is a forum, and oddly named Pelican Parts. All these Porsche people go and hang out, super duper low tech, and they can monetize the heck out of it. He buys and sells parts from it, buys and sells engines, buys and sells the actual frame of the car. And that's where he hangs out. And I remember years ago, gosh, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, going to a few conferences, and that's what 3 or 4 people, all they did. They had forums, mom forums, city forums, and they either charged for access, or they were just knocking AdSense out of the park with it. Just had a lot of AdSense on the site.
Really? So so they're making money mostly on ads.
Some ads, some on paid, but go ahead.
You're saying that they can monetize the heck out of it. By that, do you mean ads or other things as well?
Some were charging if you wanted to sell a part, they'd take a percentage of the sale, or they would I believe that's how Pelican does it. You have to pay, similar to Craigslist. I think Craigslist charges for everything's free except for jobs in big cities, I believe is how Craigslist makes some of their money. So I believe they charge for maybe their marketplace section if you want to post something for sale. It's something nominal. But then heavy AdSense across the site.
And it's like Pelican Parts and stuff is so specific that if you run an ad there, people are going to click on it, you know?
Correct.
So it makes so much sense that is a really good model for it because it's so specific.
Yeah, and Chris, to your exact point, they charge for banners directly from advertisers.
Oh,
so
yeah.
and then the banner ads get a 20% click-through rate because they're advertising used engines that are specific to a 911S. I did the same thing on Dude Ranch. So you could pay for a listing, and then you could also pay for a banner that ran across the entire site. The site, since I sold it to David, he hasn't updated it yet, but you'll still see some of these banners. The banners would get 10 to 15% click-through rates because we only accepted Dude Ranch. No Delta, no clothing, nothing. I only accepted Dude Ranches as advertisers. And so it was very effective. So it helped. When folks consider Dude Ranch vacations, they typically default to Colorado or Wyoming, Jackson Hole, near Denver. They always skip New Mexico or Idaho or Washington State. And so those ranchers love the opportunity to at least promote the fact, hey, don't forget Idaho. We got some really cool dude ranches up here. We're a whole lot cheaper. And if you're driving from Seattle, it's a whole lot shorter drive than driving to Montana or somewhere else. So they love that they were able to expose themselves outside of the Idaho page. They could show up on the homepage at duderanch.com. But yes, specialized banners is another way that sites like Pelican Parts can run. But again, almost what you were saying earlier, Chris, simple things like that. It doesn't, you can run a tiny little ad server within a WordPress installation.
And
it can automatically rotate ads. And you can target it based on page. Nothing fancy whatsoever.
And I think that, like you were talking about forums and them being kind of a special thing. I think what's so interesting about forums is like you don't have to do anything but slap a category and say, hey, if anyone wants to post a job in here or parts for sale or whatever.
Yep.
And it's almost like this free form web app in its own right, you know, like you just give these categories and say, hey, as long as you're posting about this relevant topic here, you can post jobs, you can post parts, you can do, discussion about anything. And it all becomes this free form, like your own Craigslist or, job board or anything. It could be anything, which is so cool.
User generated content. So they're going in creating all these unique. So they'll write, a forum post. I'm looking for a 1969 911S engine with part number XYRTF4. And then when somebody searches that in Google, they find that exact article. And then it starts that water wheel on really good user generated content. You have to turn into a moderator. So people start getting ugly at each other to keep them separated. So your job either is to hire a moderator or become one yourself.
Or take those people who are like always on the site posting and then give them special access. Cause who better to do it than someone who's already kind of doing it for free?
Yeah. It's funny. I have another domainer friend who he's more of a business developer. So he bought the domain cattletags.com. This is for another ranching, oddly enough, industry. So he bought the domain and then I'm not sure if he came up with the idea first, the domain. I believe he saw the domain and then built it around. So he bought cattle tags, which, the tags you put in the cattle's ears to identify them. And who he hires for his customer support team are retired ranchers. If you go to his site, let me see, it's awesome. At the base of his site, cattle tags, he usually has his team at the bottom of the page. Yeah. So if you go down, you'll see his team down there. Most of them are retired ranchers. And so he'll get to know them over the years at the conferences. And they'll call him up, dude, we're bored. I've been retired for 2 or 3 years. I got nothing to do. I was like, hey, do you want to answer phone calls maybe for an hour or two a day? They're like, hell yeah, I want to answer phone calls. And they have this wealth of knowledge that they'll end up almost like a Zappos employee. They'll just hang out on the phone with all their customers all day long, talking about ranching. Well, if a rancher's running into a roadblock, they'll give them suggestions. So he has cattle tags. He has cattlescales.com. He's even more hardcore than I am. So he sells scales. Cattle Max is his software company. So Chris, he's like a developer, but understands domain names as well. And he built a really good looking site. I love this cattle tag site. So I advertise. He hooked me up on where I recognized some growth in ranch work at the end of last year. I ran into him at a domainer conference right before the shutdown. And I kept asking him, ranch work is growing, but I need to find more ranchers are not online. They don't hang out online. At least the people that are making the decisions. How do I find these people? Is there a conference I need to go to or an offline publication? And so he mentioned a few to me: Progressive Cattle, Working Ranch Magazine. And they were not cheap, but I was like, well, this is coming directly from him. I'm gonna try them. And that's where I recognized I almost doubled my revenue in a few months by placing these like business card size. If you go through my, I can find it for you guys later if you want me to find it. I post a few photos of my paper ads for ranch work in Progressive Cattle. It's like a large form newspaper that's stapled together. And then Working Ranch Magazine, my thumbnail ad. And I have no tracking whatsoever. It's a newspaper ad. The only way I'm tracking is I notice my bottom line revenue compared to year over year is wildly higher. And I haven't done anything different. So I was like, it's Progressive Cattle and Working Ranch. Wow. I mean, typically it's growing, 10 or 15% a year and nice and steady. I got tons of people looking for jobs, but I'm getting to the point now is that I need more ranchers posting jobs on here. I don't care if you post it for free or paid. And so I started advertising in there. So sometimes I share pages with cattle tags. He's on like the upper portion, I'm on the lower portion.
That's awesome.
Another point where, us folks that are we live on the web, you never consider advertising in a magazine. It seems ludicrous.
Right.
I advertise for ranch work. It's changed that business. And now I'm thinking of doubling down here in the next couple of months, maybe getting like a half page ad and really going after it. And now that I've bought ag work, I'm going to I'm going to try my best to branch into the agriculture world and go and just lean on Aries and the farm and do agriculture and have those be my two big, and those are plenty big enough for me to focus, ag and ranching. I have cooljobs.com right now that is doing very well, but I'm not quite sure. Well, if you guys are looking for a job board, it has been fun because all it does is focus on typically seasonal hired help for really vacation or hospitality focused places, river rafting trips, dude ranches, ski resorts, all the jobs that we thought were cool, coming out of college.
Yeah, that would be fun, right? Yeah.
And it's already, if you go to Google and DuckDuckGo and Bing, I'm already ranking for cool jobs. So I'm getting a good 300 visits a day, I think, roughly. I have, 200 or 300 people already signed up on the email list. I've had a few sales come through, but ranching and ag keeps pulling me in that direction. But Cool Jobs is just too easy to pass up. There is my main competitor. They're called Cool Works, and one of they employ, I think, 6 or 7 people. We publish this. Are we publishing this on YouTube so other folks can watch this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how much I want to share.
Yeah.
we can edit stuff out if you need.
Yeah, if you need us to cut some stuff, man, that's fine.
Well, the whole industry is referred to as cool jobs. Like they want a cool jobs where the search volume is. And so my main competitor, they're called Cool Works, and they're even sometimes referred to as, you just go find cool jobs at Cool Works. And when I saw cool jobs, it had expired. I was like, I'm pretty confident there's going to be baked in traffic, people just typing in cool jobs and adding .com to the end of it. When you find a domain like that, and similar to Dude Ranch, you guys would be amazed how many people, if they are looking for a product or service, they will just go up into the browser, browser bar, they will bypass Google and they will type in what they're looking for and add .com to the end of it. They won't type IO or org anything. They'll add .com to the end. And I wish I could show you some of the stats if it's not too long, but a large percentage, if I can pull it up real quick, I'll share some of the stats of the direct traffic. I only launched Cool Jobs in May. Let's see, I'll pull the past 90 days.
So quick on that, Peter. So what's
Yeah.
super interesting to me is, Chris and I don't have experience running a job board. I mean, the premise for starting a job board together was so that we could do it for GoRail's website, and to kind of experiment there. But man, this is so fascinating to me. It's honestly, Chris, I don't know if you feel this way. It's kind of like crushing my soul a little bit because I've spent the last year with Chris just chatting about ideas and looking at like things that are honestly pretty hard to do from a technical standpoint. And now you come on here and we're talking and you're like, yeah, this thing's just getting tons of traffic. Like, it's just like, I mean, I know it's not that super, super simple. I know that you put a lot of work into these things. But when I look at the complexity of something like that versus, building a hosting software for videos or something like that, something like crazy where you're going up against like funded companies, I'm like, oh my goodness, this sounds incredible. This is like a breath of fresh air and also like kind of kills me a little bit inside because I'm like, wasting my time on all these other things that are just like, I mean, maybe there's bigger opportunity, but geez, like look at all the effort you got to put in to get somewhere.
Yeah. I'll tell you that the tailwind, and I've experienced this time and time again with a great domain name. The tailwind that you get when you buy a really good, when I'm talking about a really good domain, like duderanch.com, like onions.com, like a category killing. If you mention it to somebody at a store, they'll either remember it the first time you mention it to them, or they are simply searching for that and typing it into the browser bar. It makes your job, to your point, John, it's not easy, but it's the nudge that's pushing you along rather than walking into the wind. This thing is pushing you along in the right direction when it happens. So for Cool Jobs, my number one source is direct. Over the past 90 days, it's gotten 11,600 visits, direct traffic. And then searches is 6,000 visits. So it's crushing. And then links, I don't even advertise on it. So, and then a little bit of social, 151 visits. So it's direct traffic is how that site is getting exposure right now and getting people to sign up via email for the monthly. I send it monthly on Cool Jobs. I should move it to weekly eventually. But it's funny. That's what I have experienced. It's what I experienced with Dude Ranch. I experienced it with Appalachian Trail, where you launch it and the thing just starts not working, but it's walking before you're even ready for the thing to start walking. You're like, holy cow, okay, I need to add some other stuff. And then people assume you're the leader in the field. Peter, we have a question about the Appalachian Trail. On mile 346, there's the gorge. Can you tell us how to traverse the gorge? I'm like, I don't know, but I can find somebody who's the expert on this and get that because I want to get it answered for you. Same thing with Vidalia's. I had to catch myself up very quickly on Vidalia because my customers, number one, they want to make sure we're selling an authentic Vidalia onion. So they'll pepper me with questions, and we're entering our 7th season now, so I can field most of them. But Aries had to get me up to speed quick. Like, when do you start planting? Oh shit! Like my first year, I was like, I knew Aries told me that. He was like, well. So we have a transplant. The interesting thing on the Vidalia is you plant them really close together in a seed bed, right around September 1st. I always compare it to my customers the start of college football season. So right at the start of college football season, we are planting those seeds. You plant them really close together, and then there's an actual transplant. We actually pull the onion out of the ground and then replant it in another field, mainly for weed control. So manually, we're pulling out. We have some H2A help from South America that comes up. Pretty much all the farms use this H2A kind of visa that allow folks to come up, pull it out. We replant it with a little bit, maybe like a fist worth of distance, so that if you see photos of Vidalias, they break ground. They're quite big when when they grow and break ground. So we plant them maybe a foot apart or so, all hand planted again. So I explained that process to the customers on the phone. So you quickly become an authority. And that, after I started experiencing that with Appalachian Trail and Vidalia, and other projects, I was like, man, this is where if I'm a solo developer, or if I'm solo and I partner with a subject matter expert, like I partnered with Aries at the farm, I can do a lot of damage. I can go toe to toe with a company that has 100 employees, and I can beat them with a domain name and one person, or a domain name, one person, and a subject matter expert.
So this is what's really fascinating to me, and it's something that I honestly kind of downplayed, was the importance of a .com, the importance of the name of this thing. And I know, Chris, you've like pressed me on this a little bit, like we really got to get the .com or this or that. And it's interesting to me because I think that I can tell that everything we're talking about here is stuff like I want to hold close to my learning. It's like I want to know this. I want to like actually embrace this, because this is the type of business that I want to build, right? I don't really want to build the next massive startup or anything. I want to build some businesses that can be profitable lifestyle businesses.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this is like I accidentally did this a while ago when I was blogging about Rails topics on my own personal domain.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point I was writing about Rails and just other things that weren't Rails. And I was like, I should just buy a separate domain and throw my Rails tutorials on there, and all of a sudden in the first month, I think there was like 5,000 visits to that domain because of SEO. And then it started getting, GoRails started getting linked on Stack Overflow, which if you get, referrals from there, then you get credibility really fast. And all of a sudden I was like, what happened? Like all of a sudden this tutorial that I was basically like, I'm going to write notes for myself, but I might as well just publish them publicly, because why not? Like if I'm going to set up a server and go through all the steps, it's useful for me to keep, but I might as well make it public so other people can see it.
Yeah.
Bought that domain and instantly like traffic. And that's what led to actually doing screencasts and turning it into a business, because I was like, I have all these people now. I can probably sell them stuff.
So this has really been your experience.
And that was just an accident.
Yeah, this has been your experience too. So this is this is wild to me. Peter, when you
it's like
oh, go ahead.
It just reminds me of the stuff that like, so when we talk about like we're jealous of like ConvertKit's growth and product, like they're going and doing kind of the same thing where like people are already spending money and looking for email marketing.
Yeah.
So they're not reinventing the wheel. They're just doing it a little bit different.
Right.
And the same thing applies to domains. Like people are already searching for this stuff. You just want to insert where people are already transacting and making money. Yeah. You're not like coming up with a brand new vegetable to sell, right? Like a lot of funded startups are doing. You know,
call the directional marketing, or it's like such a high intent that you're not having to convince anybody of anything.
Yeah,
right. And then you layer in a really easy purchase process. Like I'll give you an example from Vidalia. When I was researching Vidalia, after I accidentally bought the domain, I was like, I spin it, I put it into my portfolio, and then was working on Dude Ranch and some other stuff. And then I was like, gosh, I buy those pears from Harry and David every day. They're so good. Comoose pears are so good. I was like, who's doing that for Vidalia? So I'd do a Google search. I'd find a farm. One of my competitors, you go to their site. It was, you want to buy some Vidalias from us? Great. Go to this page. Okay, you go to the page. It's a PDF. The site is not a joke. I think this is still online. The directions, print this page out. It's a big page. Put all your write all your information on this page. Write your credit card number on this piece of paper. Put it in an envelope, snail mail it to us. When we get it and we feel like it, we'll send you some onions. I was like, man, I think I can do a pretty better job than that. I'm not an expert at building e-commerce. I can do it better than that. So after I saw that, I was like, golly, is there something there? And I was like, screw it, let me go down there. Let me see if I can meet some people. They have a commission, a little committee that represents all the farmers. So I called them up and I was like, does this exist? Am I spitting into the wind if I try something? And they're like, no, 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 no. They call it mail order. It's like, no one's doing mail order. That's the lowest hanging fruit right now. And I wasn't sure if they were just trying to butter me up. So I was still skeptical. I was like, whatever, you guys are just trying to get me to work for free, probably to come promote the industry. But I had the name, so I still wanted to get their blessing, because they do protect that name vigorously, because they don't want, you're only allowed to call it Vidalia if it's grown in Georgia. You can't grow it in Texas and call it Vidalia. It has to be in Georgia. So I love that aspect about a Vidalia. It's seasonal. It's highly prized boutique items. You can, at the beginning, I was hoping I could charge a premium price for it. And you can only grow it in Georgia. So like another barrier to entry for somebody else to try to get into this.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is fascinating. If it can work, if I can convince people to pay this high price tag. But then I was like, I got to have a good onion. If I partner with a farm, at first I thought I might partner with 2 to 3 farms and ship all of their onions. But what concerned me there was, if one farm started shipping bad onions, it would be very difficult for me to identify what farm was doing that. So I decided to push all my eggs into one basket and just choose one farmer who I hit it off with immediately. He put a lot of trust into me. And so I really wanted to prove it to him. I tried my best to manage his expectations, because at the beginning I was telling Aries, I don't know what this thing, if we get 20 or 30 orders our first year, I'm going to consider it a success. And we did pretty good. And I think we shipped, it was like 600 or 7. I have it in the article. I can't even remember anymore. It was, I think, 10,000 pounds or so, because we shipped 64,000 pounds last year. But then,
wow.
So I was collecting emails. But again, going back to the simplicity aspect, from the model itself, just shipping onions, and then the website, off season, I'm collecting emails. So I have, because I'll probably send my email out next week for all my subscribers. I send an email out. Pre-ordering is available. If you want to be included in the first batch that leaves the farm, pre-order now. And they'll pre-order that day. I'll probably do a little screencast or whatever on Twitter. I usually do, because the orders come through and it's stacked up in my email. Order. And then I move on from there. But it does go back into the simple. I love little simple. I sometimes compare them. I've tweeted about this. I wrote a little blog post on this, just the gumball method. I like building these businesses that are as simple as an old, dime gumball machine. Yep. Put in a penny or a dime, turn the latch, and a gumball comes out. And that's it. That's as fancy as it really needs to get. And I think in many ways, this is how I see the web really evolving. You're going to have the big conglomerates like Amazon and Walmart, and they're going to sell all the commodities. And all of us builders are going to be on the lower end building these super boutique, identifying one pain point and just covering that space. So it's very difficult for the big, larger company, because I have a lot of trust with my customers, and they would never go, well, I wouldn't say never. It would be more challenging for them to go, because they won't get the level of support that they're getting from me. It's more challenging. And listen, I'm so small, Amazon and some of those big companies wouldn't even want to try to come down into our area. But I do sort of see it that way, where focusing on these really kind of niche, like ranch work. I'm not a job board, but I'm a job board just for the ranching industry, and focusing on the ranchers, advertising in their newspapers, supporting their newspapers, who in turn support them through scholarships and funding ranches that maybe need loans, and support that wheel over there.
Yeah, you're like the niche gives you something to do that you can do better quality on, but it's also not big enough that an Indeed's going to go after you, or Monster. They're like, whatever, who cares? We can do the big software developer jobs that are like really good, rates or whatever. And like, that just leaves all these weird pockets of like interesting stuff open that you can make tons of money in with like relatively little work. And I think that's great. Like the cool thing that you've stumbled on here.
It's so great that I'll tell you, it's such a fun niche especially from the domain name side, just approaching it from the domain name side. I was interrupting you, Chris, there. Go ahead.
No, that's the domain name is such an interesting angle to find those niches that you like. Yeah. Unless you worked on a ranch, how are you going to know? right? Like there's no other way you would have found that to go build. The question I was going to ask was, so let's say you buy a domain name for a job board that you want to set up. How, like, do you go and scrape jobs from somewhere else to populate it at the beginning? Or are you going out and reaching out to people and trying to build up unique listings originally? Or, how do you approach starting from zero?
Yeah. Ranch work, I was leaning on the dude ranchers. So I was seeding some of the jobs from them, pinging them since I knew them personally. But then honestly, Google will take you a really, really long way. Searching the term jobs looking to hire, help wanted in quotes, plus a ranch. And maybe you get lucky. A lot of times this is how I do it for Cool Jobs. In many ways right now, I'm getting enough. I have 3 job submissions to get live today for Cool Jobs that were user-generated content, them submitting it through the site. But a lot of times you can find, man, for these, for Cool Job sites, virtually every hospitality-focused enterprise has an employment or a job section, and they're trying their best. And there's a lot of noise out there, so they love the fact that an independent website is going out and curating and finding a cool job, a kids counselor at a luxury dude ranch. You work for the 2021 summer. You get to live at the ranch and get these views. And it's exactly the age range for Cool Jobs does lean younger, but they love, and this is the most difficult segment for those businesses to hire. Kids in college, they don't know how to reach them right now. And it's still web-based. It's still Google. They'll still search Cool Jobs. And then once I get them, I try my best to keep them through that email sign up. So Google takes me a long way. I do a lot of seeding myself. And then I wait for that shift to happen. It happened with ranch work. I was seeding myself. And once you have to dedicate yourself to posting these jobs. And I posted, 7 or 8 on ranch work today. But posting at least one to 3 or 4 a week. Ranch work, I was doing it every single day, posting jobs. Because it's a trust factor. It shows that Google and all the search engines that this is not some half-assed project. I'm actually dedicating time, and I will continue to dedicate time to it. And then once a potential rancher or an employee sees the site that it's consistently being updated, they'll trust it a little bit more and submit their email to be notified on a weekly basis of upcoming jobs. If they forget to visit the site, then I ping them via email. And then there is a shift that happens. Along the way, you start getting more. So I have free and then I have paid. So you start getting free ones start lining up in the queue, and then paid goes live in 24 hours. And then I don't have to scrape anymore. I'm not scraping. I'm just visiting sites and finding stuff that looks very applicable. Ranch manager, a caretaker for a ranch in Texas, an outfitter needs somebody to help take a hunting trip into the Bridger National Forest. And so seeding those, posting on the site, and then waiting for that shift to happen. It's slowly happening on Cool Jobs right now, thank goodness. And I've been doing that since May, seeding jobs on Cool Jobs.
Yeah. Okay.
It takes some time. It's just patience
Right.
And diligence, just doing it every single day, which not a lot of folks have. A lot of folks just want to have that quick hit and have it work, or get their Series A. Then you got a couple million in the bank, and then you just kind of, do some sales calls, try to get a big contract with a company versus just sweating it out and doing the grunt work. For some strange reason, I don't mind doing this grunt work, because I know in most of these projects that I'm building, if I can get it over this first hump, then I support the site, then they slowly start supporting me. And it just takes a little bit of elbow grease and just a little bit of work on them each day. And job boards are perfect. I'm so fortunate to have a little ranch work, and I'm trying my best to stay in this niche with ag work too. But it is, to your point, Chris, early days, it's me seeding and finding interesting stuff. If I happen to have a connection to the industry, reaching out to anyone, because I considered, I did build it out and I sold it to a friend now, mechanicjobs.com, which I loved, because that was my connection to my brother doing car stuff. I was like, dude, I can reach out to all of his car buddies who need help in the garage restoring old cars. I did it. It wasn't the right fit for. I'm a sort of a car guy, not really. And so I was doing it. I was like, I don't feel a connection to this thing. I'm doing it. And another domainer of mine runs towing.com, and he loved the domain and wants to incorporate it into towing. I was like, dude, happy to sell this thing to you. You can take it and run.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, that's when ag work came up, and I had bought Cool Jobs at that point. So Cool Jobs was working. Mechanic Jobs wasn't moving as fast as I wanted it to. It is a gigantic category in regards to search volume and people looking for mechanic jobs. And then you go mechanic. It's not just cars. It's elevator mechanic, forklift mechanic. It is a treasure trove. So that's what attracted me to it initially. But I'm a weird builder. I'll tell you, money has never been a big motivating factor for me. Like being helpful has been more motivating for me. So I tend to attack it from that side. It's almost like that old phrase that Bill Walsh said, the score will take care of itself. Just do everything, do all the good stuff, all these small aspects. And if you do it all well, if you need some cash, the cash will come. If you need to support yourself, it'll happen. Just do all the good things first. But then I'm selfish. I want to find ones that I'm personally drawn to where I feel like I'm being really, really helpful. And Dude Ranch hit that. Appalachian Trail, ranch work. Vidalia is, it's been the most rewarding, the most challenging, and the most rewarding, and the most fun. And I mean, it's such a great downshift for me. I don't have to stand in front of a computer. I downshift. I go hang out on a farm and watch the seeding process. And I go down there a little bit bigger each time. And I go into the packing shed, and we're adding a new, packer or some new box or a new loader or a new grader. And I get to see the operation of the packing shed. And I know I'm helping them and supporting them and growing this one little business line with them. It's such a good downshift from standing in front of a computer all day long.
You're really, you're hitting a nerve there for me for sure, because I totally agree with you. I think Chris and I are both wired this way. Like we want to find our way to help people. Of course we want to make a living and do something that, but what's interesting to me again is I'm seeing this complexity in all the things you're choosing. And what's cool is you're scratching all these like kind of, not your own itch, but curiosity. You're scratching your own curiosities.
Yeah.
And then like you kind of just see where those things go. I think so often it's easy just to pigeonhole yourself. I'm speaking for myself here. Pigeonhole yourself into like one thing. Like just like, this is what I got to have. I have to make this work. I have to build another software as a service company. Recurring revenue is the only way to build a lifestyle business that I'm going to be, happy with, because I'm a, web developer or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think what I love about your story is you see all these different facets, and I think everybody is very much like this. We have these different things that get our curiosity.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't listen to those things because we're like, nah, we got to like just focus on whatever's, making us money, or the thing that's most important right this second. Yeah. And so I love that you have these things that are kind of outside of the normal realm of what you would consider a portfolio of products. It's like all over the place. Yeah. And that they all serve kind of different purposes. Like some of them you have this affinity towards because it brings you away from the desk, or some of them are more like, oh, dude ranching is cool. Like I think that's cool. But then you have the self-awareness to say, okay, mechanic jobs, that's a great opportunity, not for me. Like that's just not for me.
Right.
I think that's so important as like, I've been thinking about just listening to you. Like, how do I pick my next thing? How did Chris and I find something to build together and all that kind of stuff? It's like looking for those types of signals, looking for those curiosities that can turn into something that might not be huge, and that's okay.
The best way I've done it is it's tough to understand whether you'll like a niche outside of truly throwing yourself in the water. I mean, I would have never guessed that I would have enjoyed Vidalia this much outside of just building it and launching it. So I have to build it and launch it. Then I can really understand once I get my fingers in there. I did it for mechanic jobs, not a great fit. I did it. So I bought calltracking.com years ago. And to your point, John, I was like, this is my big one. I think this is my really big one. Because I've used CallRail. I know I'm friends with their CEO, and I'm familiar with a few other call tracking companies. Big a really big industry. And it's marketing based, which is my MO. I know marketing, you use tracking phone numbers. I was running Dude Ranch at the time. I was like, dude, I will implement unique call tracking numbers for every single Dude Ranch, and I'll be able to track how many phone calls I'm driving to every Dude Ranch. And then I'll use the same software and start pitching it to agencies. I'll do a stripped down version, make it really inexpensive for call tracking. So me and a developer friend of mine here in Atlanta built this fully functioning call tracking application on calltracking.com. And then I started selling it, and it was just getting meh. Man, who cares? It was like, I was like, gosh, I really wanted a stripped down call tracking application. And I pitched it to agencies that had told me they were all, Guns N' Roses when I started. They were like, yes, we are all in on this. We love this. I have a tailored call tracking application we can white label and sell. I was like, yes, I can do that. We can do a white label thing for you. And then I pitched it to them after we built it. It's okay, it's great. And I was like, man, I'm not solving any problem here. And then I tried to do it for Dude Ranchers. I added a unique phone numbers for all the Dude Ranches on duderanch.com. No one called the phone numbers. They were all clicking the link just to visit the site direct. And the Dude Ranchers didn't want to, I wasn't even going to try to do, dynamic rotation, put a piece of code on their site to dynamically, they would raise hell if I did that. So I only had the phone number. So people weren't even using the phone number on duderanch.com. I was like, well, what the hell am I doing? Not even building anything of value here. The domain is worth more than what we've built within this past year. And Andy Powell owns CallRail. He knew I was building call tracking. And he was like, dude, I love you. How did you get that? I bought it for 20 grand from him. And he was like, he kept pinging me. How did you get that domain? I fell asleep at the wheel. It physically expired. It was owned by Dell, I believe. They let it lapse and it physically drops. Like, the drop, we have drop catchers trying to grab it the second it becomes available. And I knew, man, the cost per clicks on call tracking terms are like $130 a click. It's insane.
Oh my gosh.
So, and back to my earlier point, it got organic traffic. It got 20 to 25 visits a day of people typing in call tracking and adding.com. So that had value. The domain had value. Just the traffic that it received had value. The software was worthless. And so I pinged Danny. I was like, dude, I don't know what to do with this thing. I'm trying to build it. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not even solving any problems. Listen, you're an Atlanta guy. I'm happy to give you first right if you want to sell it, but I'm not going to sell it for 20. If we can figure out a price that makes sense, because the domain's worth something. But listen, the cost per click is $130 a click. I'm getting 20 visits a day. So we're going to apply that value and push that out a few years. So I ended up selling it to him. I think it was like 120 or something. I sold it to him for just the domain. He's like, I don't even want the software. Just, I want the name. At the time, he was going to build an educational resource. I think he just redirects it right now to CallRail. But that was a wake-up call for me. And John, to your point, I was like, I'm thinking way too complicated here. I don't need to build these complicated things. Where I seem to do best are these nice kind of simple, I'm sticking sort of to marketplace directory, job boards, and boutique e-commerce. And that's those three in and of itself. That is plenty big of a playground for me to stick to. I'm trying directory marketplace on birthday parties. I'm seeing the most traction on job boards and boutique e-commerce. And it might just be I run ranch work, ag work, and Vidalia. And we'll probably build out onions.com at some point. I bought that a few years ago. Wow. So we may do a version. We have contacts to Walla Walla Sweet Onions, Texas 1015s, Maui Sweets. And so we have some connections to those farmers out there who aren't necessarily being represented online. I'm like, what if we create kind of a cool, like one-stop shop for onions, just onions.com. We don't know what it is yet. So we are truly spitballing that. Right now, my farmer uses it for email. That's it. It pushes to a little page. It pushes to a page that says Onion Marketplace. We originally tried to do it for fundraising, but it was just too complicated for fundraising. So right now it's just a loading page, and he gets the biggest kick going around to all of his farmer buddies down in Vidalia. or when he goes to a conference or is on a phone call, like, Aries, how do we call you? It's Aries@onions.com. And go into the power of a domain name. He says 100% of the time, the people, I can't tell you the conversations I get into, like, how in the hell did you get that domain name? And he says, I got a friend, I got a buddy. He does domain names. So I love it. He gets to lean on onions.com. So he has Aries@onions.com. I have Peter@onions.com. It forwards to my normal one. And we will figure that one out. That's just a matter of time. I just wanted to reserve it. The guy was desperate to sell it. And so I got it at a discount. I bought it for like 14 grand. He bought it for 18 a few years ago. He thought he'd flip it to me for a lot because he read my Onions article. And he saw dollar signs in his eyes. And when he pitched it to me first, I was like, dude, I don't sell onions. I sell Vidalia onions. I don't sell onions. Like, onions has no value to me because I'm in the boutique industry. I don't sell onions. I can't get the premium that on regular onions that I do on Vidalia. So no thanks. Bye. I was like, I can't help you. And then he tried to put it up on Flippa, got like no bites. He put it up on Flippa 2 or 3 times, tried to sell it at a domain auction, no bites. And then one domain name conference, a friend of mine that runs bobbleheads.com kept pinging me. I was like, Peter, what are you doing? You probably just want this in your war chest. This is your one opportunity. It's probably not ever going to come up again. Whoever sells that is going to try to sell it to somebody else for $500,000 or whatever the price is. And so I had a tiny bit of profit out of Vidalia that 1 year. I was like, dude, what do you want to do? I was like, what are you going to try to do? I can't pay 18 for this. Like, what is a price? And we figured it out down like 14. I was like, that seems fair enough. Or it's my best domain, maybe my best domain I ever buy, just name wise. And it gets just the people typing in. There's nothing has ever been on onions.com. If you guys want me to pull up, if you want to see the power of just a category killing .com domain name, you pull the last 90 days. Type in traffic to where are we? Traffic sources direct, almost 1,000, 997 visits over the past 90 days as direct. And then it's from like askew.org, my little site, or Instagram. Somebody posted on Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, but it's direct. And then somehow it's appearing in search results. I don't even know how that happens because it's just onions.com.
I like that you have kind of a theme going on with onions and ag and ranch work, like it's all
it didn't start that way. It started only after it came across a domain name. But then, because I can see you guys doing a very similar thing. You have this war chest of talent. And then if you start monitoring domain names, listen, once you get into a rhythm of monitoring domain names, you guys are so many steps ahead of me. If you see a domain and you have a little bit of a marketing background, a domain pops up and you're like, holy cow, that represents this really, really big niche. If I go to Google and search the term, there are 8 advertisers in that niche. That means it's a lot of competition for that term. There isn't much competition within the organic side, so we can be a really big help, and we might be able to serve a specific kind of niche online, and then start on that really good domain name, or even just buy one that's already. Tell you, a lot of domainers are selling domains. Sometimes you can get a better deal through an end user right now than through expiration. There's so many new people getting into domain investing these days. The prices can just at auction go a little haywire from time to time, but it still is the wholesale marketplace. If you want to get one for, cross your fingers, the best price you can. But I bought ranchjobs.com right at the beginning of the pandemic. I knew I needed it for ranch work because I was confident a lot of people were searching or typing in the browser bar ranch jobs and then adding .com. I just happened to get fortunate that ranch work is old, it's indexed, it's trusted and authority. So, but I'll show just one more bit of statistics with you guys, because this stuns me on ranch work. How many times nothing has ever been developed on ranch jobs. So this is 100% folks going into the browser bar, probably searching for me, but they're looking for ranch jobs, and they type in ranch jobs with an S at the end .com. Over the past 90 days, It's happened 1,100 times. They've typed in ranch jobs. It immediately redirects to me. I have a UTM parameter on it, and then I log it in the databases as a visit. So with all that traffic, I went and bought ranchjob.com. I was like, whatever. It was $999. I was like, whatever. I'm just going to buy that too. I don't want Indeed owning that. I don't want anybody else. I don't want anybody else to buy it and have a potential competitor take that chess piece off the board. So now in ranch work, ranch jobs, and ranch job. Ag work will have to live on ag work because my big competitor owns agjobs.com, which I'm fine with. So ag work will be fine because I already have the traffic. I'm already cross promoting ag work all over, all over ranch work and in my email and trying to get people to sign up there. But with y'all's background and starting on a domain, oh my gosh, yeah. It's basically just a patience game. You don't have to be, if you're patient to wait for the right domain, trust me, one will pop up that will make your jaw drop. And then if you wait a year or two and start monitoring expired domain names or even domains for sale, a really neat one will pop up that might touch on some level of interest within both of you or one of you or something that could leverage your software background, where you could have part of your brain working on Rails stuff and then part of your brain working on a job board that's serving aquarium enthusiasts. Maybe it's a forum on aquarium enthusiasts or a vacation niche. I'm a sucker for vacation stuff. I love vacation stuff. That's where Cool Jobs came in. I was like, man, I can go out and river raft and hike. And gosh, I've had all kinds. I've had, there's really odd jobs out there that people that are seasonal jobs. So they're always hiring. So I love the fact that they were always having to fill these jobs every single year. So they're always going to have to come back to the well to either post a new job and I can help them further, hopefully down the road. And similar on ranching. Ranching is a tough job. And so ranch hands typically last about 2 years and then they'll either move up or find a new job. So they're always trying to backfill. And a lot of ranches are in very remote places. So they can't hire locally. And so they luckily find me on the web or find me through a referral. And then I can help push someone. That's exactly what my applicants are looking for. They want to get out of the big city. They want to go out to a remote ranch and work on cattle or work on the operation of a ranch. So that's worked out well on that specific niche. Yeah.
I guess it's really nice to hear you say that there is some, and I know there is some, right? Like if we look at like what you're talking about with the .coms, there is a lot of value there. It's hard for me to justify. It'd be hard for me. I haven't done this yet. It'd be hard for me to justify buying a domain name for a few $1,000s when I'm not quite sure what the business is going to be.
Yeah, it's a risk.
But I hear you, man. Like there is so much. I guess what I really appreciate is knowing that there's something to it and that there is a lot of value there. Yeah, that's important for me to know. Like for me to internalize. It's just like there is a lot of value there if you can make a business around it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes what I do is, or even encourage folks to do is, do this portfolio of small bets. If it is on the domain side, buy 2 or 3 domains, just put up a 1-page landing page with a form submission. I do this on landsurvey.com. I bought it years ago, tried to build something on it. It did not work, but the thing gets traffic. I got 2 land survey requests. One yesterday, one today. People need a land survey. They go in the browser bar, type landsurvey.com. If you guys want to build on something, chew on land survey. It is a gigantic industry.
Huh.
It could either be a job board or a directory marketplace. It could be both. I don't know what I'm doing with it right now. I spent $26,000 to buy it.
Wow.
Because I thought it was pre-call tracking. It was my big one. I was like, oh, this one is gigantic. It hadn't really been served well on the job board theme. It hasn't been really served well on the directory marketplace. I need a land surveyor. I'm selling my house. I got to have a land survey to sell my house, or I'm buying a big piece of property.
Yeah, we just did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Land surveys are expensive.
Yeah. Super expensive.
Yeah.
Or we got quoted like $8,000 from one place and $6,500 from another for 3 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sir, it's a fascinating industry. I wasn't able to wrap my hands around it because I did try to do it solo. So I operated it as a directory marketplace. It started getting solid traffic. I can't remember why I downshifted on it. I downshifted into a job board. And at the time, I think that's when Vidalia was taking off at the beginning of Vidalia. And it's so labor intensive. I couldn't focus as much time on land survey. I was like, man, I just dropped 26 grand on this stupid domain name. But I was like, it's worth every penny of 26 grand. It is a gorilla in that industry. I own the name of the industry. Some
Have
of my
people
geographic.
contacted you? I mean, like this is something that I was wondering too. Like, so you're sitting on a number of domains. Do you get a lot of contacts from people like trying to buy the domains from you directly?
Yeah, sometimes. So on domains that I've kind of given up on, I'll put them up for sale. On there's a marketplace called Dan, DAN. I think it represents Domain Automation Network, but it's just a marketplace. You put a domain up for sale, and they'll act as the escrow. So somebody wants to buy it through that platform, they'll accept the cash. I transfer domain to them, and then cash is released to me. So you just point the name servers to them, and then you can monitor traffic. They'll share traffic. If you guys are curious on what one looks like, I'm trying to think of a domain I have pushing to. Do I have we buy patents? My dad is an intellectual property lawyer. Yeah, so here's a good example. WeBuyPatents.com and S at the end, Patents. And so I thought that'd be a cool lead gen form there are companies that buy patents, buy trademarks, buy copyrights, and buy patents. I was like, what a cool lead gen form for that. And patents are expensive. And scroll down to the bottom of the page. Look how much traffic it gets. This is just people typing in we buy patents. So it's awesome. Eventually somebody's going to hopefully, I mean, that's cheap for $1,800. I can't remember what I bought it for.
And what are you going to pay for a patent? Like a lot more than that. So, the domain itself won't cost, it'll be a drop in the bucket.
True. And John, you mentioned this earlier, and please, between me and you guys, please do not believe the naysayers who poo-poo on .com domain names and the strength and the trust and authority that they command. And they do to 98% of the not middle America, of general America and the world. .com is king. Everything is .com. They apply trust and authority to .com. And if you represent like a landsurvey.com or calltracking.com, they automatically assume you are a leader. And it made me if you think about ranch work and Dude Ranch and all these, and Vidalia, I'm a city moron who was able to build a business on the dude ranching industry. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. It's really just ludicrous how I only did that because I own the domain name. It's very unlikely I could have built it on petersduderanch.com or coolduderanches.com, but I was able to build it because I own that domain name. Oh crap, guys! I may have to. My daughter, guys, I did not have an alarm going off.
Dude.
Oh gosh, yeah. Hey guys, I may have to bounce.
That's okay.
But I'll talk again. I got to go pick up my daughter, and I am late.
Yeah, Peter.
Yeah,
get out of here, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Blast.
Well, pick me again. We can chew the fat on domain name stuff, but I'm happy to talk again. Sorry to cut it so short. I should have had an alarm go off on me. But I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Peter. Thank you so much.
Yeah, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye.